I am live. All right, I'm doing this again because I was lagging really bad on the last one. Hopefully, this one goes better. Where are the flights coming in today from all over the world? Day three of the new lockdown measures in the province of Ontario. Lockdown measures, we're told, will last 4 weeks in most of the province, 2 weeks if you live up north. So here we go. We have planes coming from New Delhi, Brazil, Port of Spain, Cairo, two flights from New York City, one from Seoul, one from Philly, London, UK. We have three flights, one coming in at 10:45, one at 1:30 p.m., one at 8:15 p.m. Charlotte in the Carolinas, two. Detroit, three flights coming in. Frankfurt, two. Dublin, we have one. Chicago, four. Newark, New Jersey, two. And then one in Dallas, Dubai, Qatar, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, two flights coming in. Fort Myers, two. Orlando, one. Denver, Paris, Amsterdam, one. Houston, Cuba, Nassau, one flight each from those countries. Dominican, two. Mexico, four coming from Mexico, two from Jamaica. Washington, D.C., three flights coming in. And then just one, Boston, Hong Kong, Warsaw, St. Vincent, Barbados, Shanghai, China, Lisbon, Panama, Atlanta. So we've got 60 more flights coming in. That's for December 28th. That's this day coming up. It's right now, it's 1:14 a.m. And as I mentioned yesterday, don't worry if you live in an outlying area. If you're living up, there are only four airports in Canada that are receiving international flights, Pearson being one, the others being Montreal, Vancouver, and Calgary. So if you live in Sudbury, if you live in Timmins, if you live in Thunder Bay, whatever the case may be, Kingston, Ottawa, there are connecting flights. So people coming from all around the world, they're flying in to Canada. First, they'll be landing in Toronto. I imagine most will stay in the area, but I'm sure some will get out to this. And actually, I'm okay with that. I'll get into why. But basically, I'm a libertarian at heart. And if you don't know what libertarianism is, it more or less means less government. That's typically the slogan that libertarians use. I wouldn't say I'm 100% pure core radical libertarian, but it resonates with me. Sometimes government does go too far, like with these lockdown measures. Now, where are we at on this day, just turned December 28th? We have now reached 171,416 cases in the province of Ontario. That is cumulative from the start, late February, whenever they started counting till now, 10, 11 months. They have identified 171,416 positive cases. That's people who have tested positive for the novel coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2. This incredibly virulent pathogen, this virus that's spreading like wildfire. That's what we're being told. It's, got to contain this, because things are just going crazy. Oh yeah, they're going crazy. 1.15% of Ontario's 14.8 million people have tested positive for the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2. 1.15%. Flip side of that, 98.85%, 11 months into a pandemic with a virus spreading around like wildfire, and 98.85% of the people in this province have yet to test positive for it. At this rate, it's going to take 7-8 years before we even get to 90% of Ontario's population testing positive for it. We had our 13th day, by my count, 13th day on December 27th, yesterday. They reported 2,005 positive cases. They only did 41,783 tests, is what they're reporting. And so that's a positivity rate of 4.8%. It's almost 5. 95.2% of the tests that were done tested negative. 4.8% tested positive. I don't have the positivity rates from the previous 2 days, but on December 25th and 26th, they didn't give us on those days. They didn't give the testing numbers. Now they have. It was just over 61,000 tests done on December 25th, and almost just under 50,000 tests were done on the 26th, on Boxing Day. So testing numbers are down somewhat because we had been getting up in and around close to 70,000 tests. So we've fallen off, especially today, 41,000, well, for the reporting for the 27th, 41,783 tests done. So far cry from 70. But it's a holiday season, so, less people getting tested. And I still have no doubt, they've already stated it's the goal of the province of Ontario. We're being told that they want to test 70, or rather 100,000. They want to get it up to 100,000. We've been up just shy of 70,000. We haven't hit 70,000 yet, but before January turns into February, I expect we'll be seeing 100,000 tests done per day. And if positivity rates remain, consistent, and they've been 3, 4, 5%, we're going to be seeing 3, 4, 5,000 cases a day. And especially with, Dr. Barbara Yaffe, our Associate Chief Medical Health Officer, publicly stating that 50, close to 50% of the positives are false positives. You can take that for what it's worth. And you can find that on YouTube. Just type Dr. Barbara Yaffe, that's Yaffe. It's on YouTube here. It was a press conference that Ford was giving. And just type in her name and 50% false positive, and you'll see the press conference where she was called to the mic. And she put that out there, said, 50% can be false positives. They may have they may have something else. They may have nothing. But her words. Now I know a lot of people still. They're saying you don't get it. You don't get it. I've heard this. People will say to me, look, we've had 4,377 deaths in this province from COVID. Okay, I've heard that. I read it. I see it. I know the numbers. In Ontario, this year, we could expect to have in and around 120,000 deaths. That would be normal, what you would call background mortality. People die in this province. People die in this country. About 300,000 Canadians were expected to die in 2020, regardless of COVID. Even if COVID had not shown up, we were expecting more or less 300,000 deaths. In Ontario, we make up 40% of the population, so about 120,000 deaths in this province. That's over more than 300 per day. And here's the rub. Here's the difficult part. I got into a discussion with someone about Cambodia. They were saying, "Oh, in Cambodia, they hardly have any COVID, hardly any deaths, and they also have hardly any tests." And that's important. That is vitally important, because in Cambodia, their testing level is about 15,000 per 1 million of population. So that's about 1.5% of the population of Cambodia has been tested for COVID. In Ontario, or rather in Canada, our number, I don't know what the Ontario number is, but for Canada, the nation as a whole, we've tested about 350,000 per million, which is about 35%. So we're like almost over 30 times, somewhere around 30 times more testing, 3,000% more testing than Cambodia, a country like Cambodia, is doing. And it's unusual. Look at the testing levels in Japan, Taiwan, they're microscopic. And the thing with COVID is that the way it's being reported, Toronto Public Health announced this months ago on their own Twitter feed, their official Twitter feed for Toronto Public Health Department. They put it out there publicly that if someone tests positive for COVID, later dies of another cause, they will be counted as a COVID death. Someone has a heart attack, someone with cardiovascular disease, who has stents, who has a pacemaker, whatever the case. He's on nitroglycerin, aspirin. Cardiovascular disease is a common disease, and especially among the elderly. Someone has a heart attack. Now, if it's Cambodia, where they're hardly doing any testing, and someone has a heart attack, they treat the heart attack. And if someone dies, they say, okay, well, it's a death from heart attack. In Ontario, someone has a heart attack, they start treating them, they also give them a COVID test. If the COVID test comes back positive and the person later dies, well, it will be counted as a COVID death. Now, to what degree did COVID contribute to their death? People die. 300,000 people in this country, in Canada, 120,000 in Ontario, 300 per day. Background, so-called background mortality. No one lives forever. We're all going to go to our reward at some point. And I've said it before. We know where the most vulnerable, where the most serious and vulnerable people are. They're in our long-term care facilities, hospices, nursing homes. People, if you go to the Ontario Long-Term Care Association and look at, they published for 2019, basically a profile snapshot of what the health of their residents was in that year. And you'll find out 90% have some form of cognitive impairment, something like 84% have need extensive help with the activities of daily living, the ADLs. We're talking about things like bathing, dressing, feeding, toileting. And we're living longer in this country. We're not necessarily always living healthier. It's exasperating. I said we're not going to live forever. At some point we're all going to go to our reward. And these lockdown measures, closing a gym, closing a fitness center, closing a restaurant. We have 60 plus flights coming in from all around the world. Recycled air, people in a metal tube with recycled air, 2 bathrooms, and that's okay. And I know that some will say, well, yeah, you're wearing masks. So they're wearing their masks. They're enforcing it. Oh yeah, if a 2-year-old, try and put a mask on a 2-year-old, and there are people being kicked off planes because their 2-year-old won't wear a mask. What 2-year-old would? 2-year-olds might be smarter than the rest of us. So I thought, it just occurred to me, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom that children have. I'm not sticking that on my mouth. This, we're told, is an aerosol. Aerosols are exponentially smaller than droplets. Okay? And why are we always being told, wash your hands, don't touch? Why? Simple reason. You go to Walmart. Someone ahead of you is in Walmart. They have SARS-CoV-2. They're infected, maybe asymptomatically, pre-symptomatically, whatever the case. They go and they touch their eye, they touch their mouth. You do this stuff without even thinking about it, without even being aware of it. So they'll rub on the nose. So you got some. Now you go and they punch in their number on the keypad when they're paying, and then you come after them, and you do it, and then you wipe your eye. That's an entry point. Entry point. How's a mask going to keep aerosols out of your eyes? It's not. It's going to go in. And perhaps this is why the CDC, they did a study showing that the overwhelming majority of people reporting in their study that got infected with SARS-CoV-2 said they wore their masks all the time. It was something like 77%. Then if you included the people who said they wore it almost all the time, it was like over 80%. This is a aerosol in the air. And we think a piece of cloth, I've got one over here. Where are they? Yeah. You think this folded piece of material? And this is the way most people wear them. You see it every day. It's like that, right? Maybe not on the planes, but still, big gaping hole here. I've got it on upside down. I think no. Yeah, it's got the nose thingy. Got it upside down. But even with that, look at this. Think it's going to work? Okay. If you want to wear it, God bless you. If you see someone not wearing one, maybe they have COPD, maybe they have asthma, right? Leave them be. It's a placebo. End it off here. I'm at 14 minutes and 30 whatever seconds. No one's going to live forever. Churches, pastors, church boards, clergy, I know it's not an easy decision. I know a lot of pastors. I have friends who are pastors, and it's not easy. But church is essential. It's needed. The isolation that these measures are bringing in, there are people just crying out. They want to go. And if you open your doors, they'll be there. Look up Section 176 of Canada's Criminal Code. There's a church in Montreal, I mentioned it yesterday, L'Église de la Nouvelle Création, Church of the New Creation in Montreal. They put it up. I'm not a lawyer, none of the above. I'm not an epidemiologist, virologist, infectious disease expert, no law degree. But they published, printed out, and put on their doors Section 176 of Canada's Criminal Code. And the police are leaving them alone because it's a criminal code offense. It's serious law. We have a constitution. We have a criminal code. These lockdown measures, we can have 60 flights a day coming into Ontario from all around the world, and yet a gym, a fitness center, a restaurant can't open, but we can have 100 plus people crammed into a metal tube, and we really think that this is going to keep a deadly pathogen out. Look at I just got a comment from someone I know and who has someone the same age as my son. And, smart kid. He doesn't want to wear a mask. And now he's being homeschooled. My heart goes out. I won't say your name, but this bothers me. This pathogen, Hong Kong flu. Look up the Hong Kong flu. Pandemic lasted from 1968 to 1970. According to estimates by World Health and other organizations, 1 to 4 million people worldwide died. That was at a time when the Earth's population was less than half of what it is now. And yet nothing was done. People talk about these lockdown measures like they're, this is the way you deal with the pandemic. No, never before. This is the first time in history we've ever dealt with a pandemic like in this fashion. We've never had lockdowns before. We never did that. 1968 to 1970, 1 to 4 million people worldwide dying of a deadly virus, much like SARS-CoV-2 in the sense that it was overwhelmingly affecting those who were older and with underlying health conditions. Very similar dynamic. And yet in 1968 to 1970, what did the young baby boom generation do? They went to Woodstock. They had the Summer of Love, Ashbury Park. They lived their lives. And now we're destroying the mental health of our kids. No, it's wrong. You want to argue? You want to counter my point of view? I welcome it. Put it out there. I'll respond. Let's try and keep it reasonable. I know I'm getting heated, but I wanted to keep this under 20 minutes, so I'm going to delete my previous video because I said basically all the same things, but that one was lagging horribly. I think this one has gone well. Say hi to the little guy for me. And anyway, God bless. Pastors, think about it. Open up. Cheers, everyone.